Mr. Bell, can you hear us? Mr. Bell?
You take them in your car down there and then they run it. Quite a routine. Barbara Whitaker joined you.
Your microphone's on, but I don't hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, but it's loud. Yeah. Dave.
I'll speak with my face this way. I know. Well,
Let's see what they were doing next door.
Sorry, just trying to get Mr. Bell where he can talk, y'all.
Hello, good morning.
Ah, there you go. All right. Can you hear us? He's our first presenter.
Bell, who's representing you. Yes, over the turf.
All right, Mr. Doherty.
okay, we good to go?
We're good to go.
Okay, great. I'd like to call to order the February 27th, 2025 Architectural Review Planning Board meeting. Renee, a roll call, please.
Mr. Roach.
Here.
Mrs. Orthwine.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Lyons.
Here.
Acting Chairman Doherty.
Here.
Also present and participating is Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, and myself.
You received the minutes from the last meeting in your packet. If you have any comments, you can make them or changes. Otherwise, if someone wants to make a motion to approve them, please do.
I move they be approved as presented.
Second.
Mr. Roach.
Aye, okay.
Mrs. Orthwine.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Acting Chairman Doherty.
Yes. Are there any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, arrangement of agenda items for today?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. You see the regular meetings that roll into the spring and into the summer. Please make a note of them. Okay, I guess we could, has there been any ex parte communication?
No.
Okay, great. Renee, could you please administer the oaths?
Stand and raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, I guess we'll begin with the first application. I believe this involves Mr. Bell, who disappeared.
Great.
Loose wire.
Yeah, we're having like major issues today. It's a wire. There we go. All right, Mr. Bell, are you there? Mr. Bell? Trey, what shall we do? Can we present it?
We can move to the next application and see if he'll be available.
Okay, and I'll go call him in the meantime. Can we do
Okay.
that?
Okay. All right, then I guess we will move on to our second application. And let's think, where are they? That's the 2562 Avenue au Soleil application. Mrs. Swift, good morning.
Good morning. You could call me Quinn. Everybody, I'm Quinn Miklas, my wife.
deferred having my last name when we got married. So when I get called Mr. Swift, she says it's a matter of privilege for me. Well, thank you for having me here today. In the interest of time, I'll try to keep my presentation short. Originally, we started about 3 months ago trying to do a re-roof project on our house. And you may know or may not know of some of the issues you have with source and white tiles. And I don't know if you've seen our house. Our house is on a double lot. So originally we thought we'd just go with a white tile. We submitted a slurry coat. It was rejected, and thank you for rejecting it because that decision was made without me. And I thought it looked like the side of a refrigerator. So, and then I told my wife in
It was denied. It wasn't through and through.
It was coded.
Coded, right?
It's the best. It was the best we could do.
Okay.
So then, in a moment of non-humility, I told my wife, "I'm an architect. I'll just call up the manufacturer and I'll have some white tile made for me." And I called them up and they said, "We can't source ceramic tile." I was going to go with a white clay tile, and we couldn't even source it because I have a pretty good relationship. So we exhausted that. So then we moved on to what we thought was the best choice for us, and we picked a roof tile.
Hello?
And I'm sorry that it's called brown sugar because that's kind of a chuckle for us. But we think it's appropriate for our home. One, because originally the house before, when Miss Swift was Miss Swift before she was Mrs. Miklas, it was a kind of a Gulfstream Bermuda. And I've always told her it was more fashioned to be like a mobile home on blocks. I didn't particularly like it. So we had a couple of additions. One, we were on one of our lots and we just added about 2,500 square feet. And then we owned the lot to the east of it, and we decided to put on a 3-bedroom, 3-car garage. My wife is one of 13 children. If you come to our house, you get a car and you get basically a house. So anybody who wants to travel, we have those accommodations available to you. So now we're dealing with more of a ranch style house, just because architecturally I could not establish a Gulfstream Bermuda feel to it. And I'll just say that where we live, I would say the architecture is more of a economic pursuit than an architectural pursuit, because even though we're in Gulfstream, compared to what's on the ocean and compared to what's this side has true Gulfstream Bermuda style architecture with all the discernible features that incorporates. So when we're dealing with a house, just because I have 196 feet of width, I thought it was a fool's errand to try to create a center of a home, try to center massing of the home. So now the house moves more left to right with a decentralized entry. And then also, just per your code, it kind of encourages you to take existing styles from the neighborhood. And I think you may use the word harmony in that. So we borrowed some styles that we liked in the house, because there's a few houses that are particularly of note in our area. Then we have the Spanish Mediterranean, which is particular to our district. So that's how I'm here today. So I'm requesting the use of our tile, brown sugar, and a repaint. And if you would like, I can pick it up and present it to you.
Sure.
Would you like to pass it along, or would you like to
No,
put it in the center?
That's enough for me. Yeah.
And then I also mentioned the repaint as well. And the repaint is directly from the colors that you prefer. And that's the end of my presentation.
Questions?
Well, another alternative to white was kind of a gray tile. I mean, you commented by that in your letter, but you just couldn't find a scheme that worked with the gray and the color and the sides.
Well, just because we have extensive hardscape that's in the taupe family. It's all browns. So I don't know if you've seen our house, but I've written in the checks for the pavers. So we have extensive pavers that are in the neutral family with some browns, and that would just be such a clash that wouldn't be an acceptable choice for us.
The drive pavers on the wall.
Yeah, and then it's our pool coping, and then our rear pool deck, and again, I didn't put an arrow there, but it's extensive how much paving we have.
But you built this original house, correct?
No, well, if you say original, that's going back to the 70s, mid 70s. I mean, the mid 70s, I think it was a George Snow house or along those lines,
Okay.
and it was
But
basically.
You did the end.
I did the 2 add-ons, yes.
And when those were done, it was classified as a Bermuda style Gulfstream Bermuda, correct?
With the first application, it may have been. The second application, I think that just Bill and Rita rode with that. It's not a Gulfstream Bermuda style. It's a more of a ranch style. If you even read your own code, it has none of the characteristics that you put as preferred elements in a as an architectural style.
Well, I think it does have some, although it is far larger and longer than one would expect from a Bermuda style. But I was just interested in your 5-page letter that you
Correct.
wrote and the tone of it. That
Well, the tone of it is,
we are wrong and you are right.
well, I'm an architect with 30 years of experience.
Yeah.
6 generations of architects, been on TV, been all over the world, got a lot of things. And just because I'm a resident here doesn't mean I'm not an architect. So one of the
Well,
beautiful,
no, you're an architect.
okay, but
We are a town committee
okay,
that
but
has a code.
please let me explain. So when I get to my house, I'm not an architect and I don't have opinions until my wife told me to have an opinion. And I wouldn't represent myself with any less vigor than I would represent a client. So understand that I have had differences with boards. I'm mainly correct. How long it takes me to prove I'm correct is just a matter of the disposition of who I'm presenting it to. So I think that with my knowledge of architecture, my knowledge of your code, that it carries a certain gravity to it. I mean, I am the originator, I'm the creator of it. I know what style I use. I know what my education is. I know what my training is. I know what my past history is. So for me to say my own house is rent, I don't think that in any way that should be misinterpreted as disrespectful. It's fervent. It's because it's visceral. I know what it is. And that's the tone. So I'm sorry if you didn't like the 5-page letter, but when I write letters, I'm not really interested in feelings. I'm kind of doing a factual presentation of what I think the facts are. And I'll just put to you in these terms, just a short story, which I was telling my staff and telling my kids. So I was pumping gas at Costco. This is a story about perspective. I hear a horn honk. Look behind me, a lady is in the car. Pump more gas, hear the horn honk. I look at the lady, she's still back there. I move to the back. She has a phone with a timer on it and a video camera. So you guys may think nothing about that. I see a $10,000 ADA lawsuit. So what I'm trying to tell you is I'm an architect and I have a perspective, and some things I key on, which you may not think is important, but as for me, who likes to follow rules, I think it's important. So that story was, some people saw a lady honking a horn, and I saw a lady giving an audible call for help for an attendant that never showed up. So that's why, again, you may dislike the tone of my letter, but I'm really interested in processes. So
Trey, if it's classified as a ranch house, would that then allow the brown roof?
Right. So we do have specific regulations regarding Gulfstream Bermuda and Spanish Mediterranean that
Right.
are specific to those architectural styles. For a ranch home, you would just be subject to our general architectural styles, just like any other architectural style that's permitted in Gulfstream. I don't think that we would allow a new ranch style house to be built in town, but given that this is an existing home, and working with Mr. Miklos and understanding his position on the architectural style of the home, given the significant changes over time regarding it being now a double lot and extremely wide. Um, we wanted to make sure that he had the opportunity to present that to the board without staff doing that on our own and saying, oh, this is a different architectural style. Sure. So really that's why we're here. It wasn't that we opposed that different classification. It was just that that's not something that staff felt appropriate doing on our own. And again, given the significant changes that are very unique, you typically will not see anywhere else in town. Just even take a Gulfstream Bermuda that is a single story on a single lot. You combine another lot, you make it a lot wider. I mean, it is changing a lot of things.
But architecturally, I'm not an architect, so.
Okay. Well, I don't like many architects, so you're in good company then.
I've seen a lot of presentations over the years, and I look at this building, and it looks very much Bermuda. And I guess I don't quite understand how you take a Bermuda house, stretch it out, and now it becomes a ranch. I know what a ranch house is. My son bought a home in an area he loves. He doesn't love the house. He lives in a ranch house, and it's a ranch house. This is not a ranch house, any
Okay.
ranch house I've ever seen. And now, that's my opinion. A question: if we were able to find for you through and through white roof tile, would you proceed with the white?
You won't be able to.
No, my question was if we were able to find it for you.
Probably no, because I don't believe it
That's what I
exists.
thought. Thank you.
Well, let me qualify that statement. Let me just tell you why my answer would be no. Do you know why they don't make white roof tile anymore? So go to my house, take a look at my 10-year-old addition and see my yellow white tile. That's from Westlake. So they can't source, when you work with clay, they can't source ceramic. When you're working with cement, they can't cover, the cement is gray, and the additive that they're using in white turns yellow, and they haven't been able to stop it. I had Westlake in my office. So Westlake pretty much is the only source right now that they were the last ones to stop making it. So in their process, which was in my letter, they are a year or two if they can find the sources, because from their perspective, they look at my home and look at the warranty on the tile. And if that tile turns color on a house that's 196 feet wide, they're going to have a problem, because I know what I'm paying for my roof. So as of right now, nobody's making a white tile that's reliable, that has a guarantee. And when I order tile, I can have custom tile made, mainly when I'm dealing with clay products, in any color I want. I can tell them how much I want it burnt. I can tell them how much terracotta. I can bend 5 colors together. I can use cap and pan. I have pulled with those factors. Nobody's going to make this for me. And that's why I said, if nobody's going to make it for me, there's nobody reliable you're going to source and give it to me. It's just too much of an investment for so much research that I put in, and found out, again, the reason why they don't make it is because they can't guarantee it, and it's not on the marketplace. And I can't take a chance for how many squares I'm paying. I have half my house has a yellow white roof. The other one, that's 15-year-old roof, is white. There's no way around that. I can't color it, can't do anything. So that's why it's the reasons no, because it doesn't exist in the marketplace. And I don't want to be a guinea pig or an experiment.
I note, Mr. Miklos said on this application 10 years ago, and I believe it's your handwriting.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen this? Where you
No.
call the house Gulfstream Bermuda? You want to come take a look?
I don't disagree with that.
Okay, that's why we're a little confused. And this is from 2011.
I think I explained that in there. That was custom when Bill Rita here. You would sit in this room and they would fill out your application with you, and that's what they classified it at the time. So it was.
Okay, so you just filled it out.
It was not pertinent to the submittal.
It wasn't pertinent to
It
what?
wasn't pertinent to submittal. I was asking for, that's a permission for the 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
Yes, it's for the
Yeah.
addition of
Yeah.
garages and living space.
It wouldn't change. It would have changed the
13.
application. So why would I care how they classified it? Because that was staff classification. That was
Okay.
my
I
classification.
didn't know if you'd seen it. It just jumps out.
I know. I was explained that, and it's
Okay.
the same explanation I gave before.
I thought in your letter you said you weren't aware of it or you'd heard of it.
No.
I just wanted to let you know, it's just
Oh,
right
no,
here.
what I said was, I'll take your word for it that it exists.
And that is, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's what I said.
Just a clarifying point, the concern is finding one that has a warranty, right? Or that,
Oh, a white tile that I can buy in quantity that has a warranty. There is, like, let's say if you had a 2,000 square foot house, I don't know if Westlake would sell it for you. They have it on their thing, but they would have to make, whoever we would buy the tile would have to physically make it for us because of the quantity of it. And they're not making the tile because they can't source again. So if you take a look at the slurry coat, look what the slurry coat tells you. We give up on making white tile, so we can only put a slurry coat on it to make it white. I mean, that's just them saying, and actually, to tell you the truth, I don't think they're going to sell slurry coat anymore because there are other communities. I don't know if you know Camino Gardens in Boca that has all white tile, and they had a run of slurry coat in there. The slurry coat doesn't look good and it doesn't wear good. It's supposedly, oh, nothing sticks to it. It has a weird thing that in the crevices of it, it turns black. So you're getting like a sawtooth
Well,
there.
we're not talking about slurry coat.
Yeah, okay.
Let's
No,
stick
but I'm just telling you that was the manufacturer's best effort
to get white.
to get white,
Yeah.
and they failed.
Okay.
my question was more if it's not available and it's not going to be for that period of time, then maybe we have a broader challenge because we're only giving residents white or gray, white through and through or gray slate as an option. And so this may be a broader issue.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're going to have to.
And you raised a subject that's been discussed probably numerous times in the past about availability, and seems like we still get houses with it through and through white. So, and I don't disagree with you bringing it up, and I'm sensitive to the availability. But somehow I see other people coming in, they get it done.
Who's getting done? Because the
Well,
neighbors.
I see, like.
Well, I mean, the development north of us, if you look at what they have medium gray and white gray. And that's a brand new development.
Blue water code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is just kind of an example, the marketplace.
So none of them we approved with white.
Yeah.
through.
And so
They
again,
might-
going back into the letter, you can't force me to buy a product I can't get. So we both have a problem in the sense that maybe in the future something will come back in line. Vera's not going to make white clay tile. And just to let you know what the effort I put in, the delta between cement and clay is about 200,000. So you're talking about me investing $400,000 in the roof
versus 200.
versus 200. So it's not like I strolled in here and said, hey, take it or leave it.
Right.
You may not like my letter, but I put in the effort to get here today to give you an honest presentation and tell you what my problem is. And again, I'm 58. My wife's a little bit behind her. We want this roof to last till I'm 78. We don't have the disposition to put anything on our house that is going to be an experiment that's going to yellow or discolor.
Right.
We're just not that type of people. So I'm trying to get a solution that I think is important, because I'll just tell you something along the lines. If you look at the gatehouse coming into our development, it has a beautiful shake roof that is patining to a medium brown. I mean, and that's wonderful. I'm not going to put a wood shakes roof because, I mean, that's only good for 90 miles an hour. But if you look at it, that value that has to it is nice. So I guess what I'm asking the question today is, if you like the tile, it would be on my roof, and we're actually changing the color of the house to go more appropriately with it. We're trying to be the best neighbors we can be.
That's that blue that Paul was looking at, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that's an approved color. Okay.
straight off the board.
Right off the board. Huh?
Yeah, Trey and Greg, just so I understand, and I made a comment that I couldn't answer the gentleman's question as to what houses, but I've seen through and through white being put on all the houses. I mean, it continues. Am I wrong that that's not happening.
So I just pulled up a house in Blue Water Cove that has a white tile. It's the first lot on the south. I don't know if they changed the color, but they submitted for 4700 ultra white. And it does appear from Eagle Bel Air, that's the tile. And it does look from an aerial that it is a white tile. And we also
And that was built how many months ago?
that was
9 months, a year?
I mean, that was one of the
Yeah.
first ones. So it may have been a
Okay.
few years ago. And then we did just approve a white through and through on 915 Orchid within the last 16 months. That is a smaller home. It's not the same size, but to address Ms. Orthwine's question about the availability, it's our understanding in processing applications and speaking with our permit tech, we're not having we are still allowing and seeing applications for white tiles and approving them, and white roofs are going on around town.
Although I'm just thinking maybe some of those applicants aren't aware, as an architect would, the yellowing is what you're claiming. I mean,
the only way, again, I know Eagle Tile, I know Westlake, they come into mind. The only way anybody's going to white tile is buying it off the warehouse floor. I mean, because you can buy a discontinued tile for 2,000 or 3,000 square foot house. I think I'm around 14 or 15,000 under roof. So I'm a substantial house. And so I'm a run, meaning that they call the factory, tell them what the run is, and they're going to make it for me. So I don't have the point of going backwards. And I mean, I went through Blue Water Cove and I have been wrong in the past, but that's a modeled white. What I saw was gray and dark gray. Again, I may stand to be corrected, but I did drive through that neighborhood. And it's funny enough is that we actually contacted the spot. It's a small world that we operated. We actually called the manufacturer or the roofer for that area, and he didn't have any. He kind of relayed the thing that I was able to get this, but it's in the Gray family. And then also there's another house in our area that I know the builder quite well. I think he's with a model gray too, because I called him. I don't know if you know Estate Development. They're doing a house that's on the water. Actually, I think they're doing two houses.
You keep calling it modeled gray, or
Yeah.
what's the first word?
Modeled.
Motttled.
Mottled.
Okay.
Okay. So what it is that, again, they give up, I cannot make you a white tile. So the gray you see in it is our imperfection in the white tile. And we hope that our imperfection is in a consistent pattern that it looks like it's first quality. That's what essentially when you're dealing with a concrete tile, and that's from the manufacturer's rep. Because again, I thought it was going to be an easy exercise to find white. It's not. So just going back to the couple houses that are in my area, they're going to install the modeled white color. We have such a substantial investment in our pavers and in our pool coping that is in beige that's not going to be a choice for us. And the other problem that we have is that we're self-insured. So we need a new roof by the end of the summer or beginning of the summer. May's the rainy season. And, that's kind of what falls underneath my problem. But the last insurance company didn't like our roof because some is 15, some is 10 years old. So we're riding with self-insured. So again, I don't come here without turning every rock or leaf over, trying to find an answer that I don't need your permission to put a roof on.
And we did have many meetings with Ms. Swift and Mr. Miklos.
That's okay. You got it. Swift is a great name too. I mean,
so we really tried to work through what would be acceptable under the code, and then as far as the colors go, those are what are permitted on the board. I think Ms. Swift met with Renee and they went over and picked that out.
So is this opening a Pandora's box so that every Bermuda style house that is built from here on in is not going to be, is going to have sort of an open option of whatever color somebody wants to put on it?
So because we're changing the classification to a ranch style, it's in place au soleil on a double lot. You know, we are dealing with sort of, I won't say a one-off, but to see that happen elsewhere in town, I don't foresee it. Typically, you're not seeing a lot of lots joined together. And when you are, you're probably seeing a new build. So then they would be subject to our architectural guidelines. This is a house that is, you know, maybe 50 years old, which is what.
May I answer your question in this way? The advantage that new construction has over me is that they don't have pavers installed. If I was building a new home, I would probably be building a medium gray. I'll be totally in compliance, and then I would probably have a charcoal gray driveway. I don't have that benefit. I'm existing the way I am with a taupe. So what you're suggesting about Pandora's box is for the next applicant to come in here and ask you for the same accommodations that I am, you would have to have a house as large as mine. You would have to have existing pavers, pool copings, pool decks, walkways that are brown and telling you that they had a hardship going there. So new construction won't be affected by any decision you make today because they got so many choices than me. And if you think about new construction, I mean, most of the houses that are Bermuda style on this side are usually a medium gray tile with a white base color of a house, and then with, they say, a more kind of lighter trim color or shutter color, because their canvas is blank. My canvas is already done. I've already, painted that composition, and I'm just trying to get the best house I can get underneath this in circumstances, and even trying to meet you all the way there with spending $200,000 more to accommodate the guidelines, and then even now repainting my house where probably, I don't need to repaint my house. But we're trying to put every piece that we can for you to understand that you have a difficult situation, but understand that we don't come here because we took your guidelines lightly or we're not respectful of your positions or opinions. We're just out of options, and I want a new roof starting in May, and my roof is going to take several months to put on because of the size.
But Trey, I can live with your interpretation of it being a ranch. That's the only way I would contemplate this proposal, just as an observation. It's a lot of square footage. I guess the typical house is that my house, I mean, I don't know, would be a third of or half of the size of the roof. So, and I'm trusting that some of what, well, I heard what you said, and I don't see, we're at two options. One, it's a ranch, or it isn't. If it's a ranch, I guess it's okay according to the code.
Correct.
That's sort of well on that.
I would tend to agree, make my point. We're trying to accommodate a resident, a taxpayer. It seems like you've gone to great extent. I talked to Trey at great length for more than an hour about the searches going through. I even went on Google and started typing in roof contractors and looking. And even on their websites, I didn't see white pop up. I don't know if it's true, but I went to that. So I calling it a ranch, is that's what we have to do. I would probably be fine with that too.
Is that the way you feel, Trey? It's fine to change the classification?
So because the house has changed so significantly over time with a double lot, I think that is an acceptable interpretation, that it is no longer a traditional Gulfstream Bermuda, given the layout, the decentralized center, the fact that it's all single story, it's very long. That is an acceptable interpretation as I view it from Mr. Miklos's submissions.
As a practical way, just going back to your Pandora's box scenario, it's easy. It's easier if it's a ranch house because it's not precedent setting, and it's the honest answer. So you're not approving a Gulfstream Bermuda with a brown. You're approving, or I'm asking for approval for a ranch style with a brown roof, which in your code doesn't need an exception.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you understand how I'm getting to my point.
My hesitation on this is more due to reading that 5-page letter, which I found to be inordinately aggressive.
Well, I'm sorry you feel like that.
Yeah, but,
I mean,
as long as it is.
it's the
as
fact
long as
patterns
it
that I
is
saw.
Okay with the staff interpretation, I think I don't think that the brown looks terribly bad, so.
Well, that's the standards I set for myself,
Yeah, I
not
mean,
terribly
not
bad.
terribly bad. I mean, I think the brown looks fine on the house, but I was taken aback
We all were, I would add.
by your letter.
Some people are.
And there have been other candidates for houses that have come through this committee that have had that kind of approach, and it doesn't sit well with the committee.
Well, let me just tell you about my background. I try not to fight with anybody. But if I'm right, the last time that I said I was right and the city was wrong, go take a look at the Garden Cemetery in Boca. That was 8 years of my life in a lawsuit. I said I was right. They said I was wrong. So why would I represent myself any differently? And again, you may not see the same things I see, but the way I look at things is you never took city planning and did Battery Park City in New York City. You haven't studied the access to guidelines in the compliance in the way we look at it. So we look at it
according to the code.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just look at it differently, and again, that's as close as you're going to get a tautology to the tone of it, because we're just trained in a way that we really care about access to the code and the relationship, the ease that you can comply with code. That's what we're built for, and we're built for what you may not think is a hardship. We're built for seeing that as a hardship. So you're just dealing with somebody again. It's my own home, and maybe I would have represented a client in the way I did, but I don't know whether you're agreeable people or not, right? So just trying to make the best of it.
I hear you.
Any other questions? If there aren't, would anybody like to make an motion to
Well, I'll at
approve?
least get it on the table to get it started. I make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan to re-roof a new slate brown sugar color tile with new principal building and accent paint colors as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Acting Chairman Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Okay, moving on.
Mr. Bell, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right, yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
We're ready for you, Mr. Bell.
Yes, I'm here representing John and Susanna Shubin for 2910 Gulfstream Road. We were here in January, and we did not have our tests for the turf and the correct sample, and we would like to resubmit that today for review and hopefully approval.
Okay. And we read in the packet that it meets all the technical standards that we have.
It does. They are going to have to pull the grass that is currently in there out and replace it with this.
Okay. Interesting. Did the previous applicant, did they have to do the same, or they hadn't put theirs in yet?
No, they had, but
They had
it was,
Terry cut-
it
oh,
was,
his
it was
his met the
passed
test.
all the tests.
Fair
yes.
enough. Okay.
So I wasn't at the meeting. Those were the major issues, right? It wasn't conforming and we didn't have. So if we do now, is there any other discussions needed?
Nope.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan based on the finding that the conversion of 575 square feet of natural sod to artificial turf meets the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Acting Chairman Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bell, for your patience.
Thank you so much. Most appreciated. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Just as a point, how do we follow up on that? Do we inspect? I mean, they're going to take it out and put it in new. I mean, do we?
I can't remember if they
Yeah,
have to
I'm-
pull a permit for that, but either way, we'll do a zoning review and
Yeah.
I'll get with Dina to make sure that we do that appropriately.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
next application, Mr. Marsh.
I hope you're easier.
Put your gloves.
Wow. Good morning, Mark Marsh, Bridges Marsh Architects. I'm here representing Amos and Barbara Hostet, who bought 3224 North Ocean Boulevard. I think everybody's familiar with the lot. We are embarking on redesigning a new house for the project, and we're here today to request a demolition of the existing building. Most of you might have seen or are familiar with the building. It's, I think it must have been a late 60s or mid 60s construction, Bermuda style. And really not a lot has been done to it over the years. So it's really in pretty poor state. And I think we have no option but to demolish it. So with that, I will just show you what we'd like to do in the demolition is you can see the dotted line of the outline of the existing building. We'd like to just remove the building and other associated built items, i.e. the pool, there's some storage areas, and maintain the existing asphalt driveway because during construction, obviously it'd be a great benefit not to have to put in a temporary staging area. We're blessed with the fact that we have two accesses, the primary access on North Ocean Boulevard and the secondary service entry off Gulfstream. So that's really the extent of our request. We have been talking with staff about seeing if we could get or be allowed to do an early demolition. Here you can see the property better from the aerial. The reason being is they want to obviously advance or proceed with the project as quickly as possible. And we have a permitting process to go through, as you know. There's no guarantee how long Highland Beach is going to take. So we'd like to start as soon as possible and ask for some relief on the May 1st requirement. I don't think it'll have any impact on any neighbor. As you can see, it's over an acre large. It's a substantial property, and it'll be a pretty quick demolition. So we've been asked to go to the commission for their approval, but any support would help. When I say early, we'd most likely, we're at the commission, when are we, Trey? What? March 14th. So to get a permit will take us into, I'm assuming, late March or early April. And that's what we're trying to advance the demolition.
So like 30 days is sort of what
Right.
you're at best.
Yeah.
But what advantages will that give you? Because you're not going to be able to put a shovel in the ground
No, but
May 1st.
I think the owners are anxious to see the site.
Just see the site.
Not naked. I don't want to get into what you just went through.
Yeah.
How
We don't either.
I'm going to lie on the we don't road and either. We'll all roll down the hill and, experience the site. But no, it's,
Okay.
they're just anxious to get started. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the house testers. Are you not?
Yeah.
His father was a member of the golf club. He's a member of the golf club. They spend most of their time, they're in Boston. They spend most of the time at Hillsborough, and they've done that at Hillsborough Club, and they've done that for many years. But they wanted to move to Gulfstream just because of serenity and the quietness, proximity to the golf club. So they're a wonderful family. And
Well,
I think,
I'm in favor of allowing it. Just an observation, I made some comment about in-season, off-season in front of a year-round resident who said, well, why is it that you take care of the people in season and the people out of season not included? And, there's a little bit of that, I think, but given the lot, I mean, you can get that down in probably 2 days.
Yeah, and yeah,
When would you think, if everything went well in the approval process, when would they start the demolition? May, April, you're thinking?
I'm thinking early April.
Right after the March meeting with the commission, they could get a permit.
Well, we have to file for a permit, and again,
Who do you file with? You mean Highland
Highland
Beach?
Beach, yeah.
Okay, but
They're
I'm sure
pretty
it's
quick on
not-
their turnarounds.
a week or two for demolition.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Delafield's on the north, who's on the south side?
Charles White.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm one over.
Oh, that's right. Oh, John, you're one up. Okay, sorry. You're one more.
Mark,
I'm
this is
30.
this is going to be about a 2-year project, I presume, isn't it?
Well, we're trying to, the owner is fairly old and he's got,
Yeah, I
some
know
desire.
Amos.
Yeah, you know him. And,
But the fact, you're talking 60 days or 30 days,
We're-
is that
we're-
going to impact?
we're looking,
I think you're inconveniencing neighbors.
okay, now I think the construction period right now is 16 to 18 months. That's what we've been charged with. So I think that's kind of where we're referring to an early start or getting the project moving as quickly as possible, because we have not just demo, but we have to get services, we have to get, other things. And plus, to get the engineering. It's a beautiful site.
Oh, I know.
Gorgeous, yeah.
I know.
The only request is really to move it forward. May 1, they can do the demo.
May 1, they
So,
can do it.
right.
I'm happy to have them do it on
But
May 1.
that's,
We're just asking for some, not to set a precedent, obviously, or
Yeah.
hopefully not, that, we just like to advance as much. That's the
and
request.
they're aware that they're going to have to sod it and irrigate it.
Oh, yes,
And
yeah.
of
You'll
course, that
see
makes
that-
it.
We've written a whole specification on the submission as to what would take place once the building is gone. Yeah, it'd be resodded, irrigated. It
When
won't
do
not-
you estimate you'll be in front of us for the house?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
We've had one meeting in terms of getting
Only
into the
one.
design.
Okay.
So you sent a notice to the
The surrounding neighbors,
yeah,
so they are aware.
And Curtis, they have no objection. I
Well,
mean, I was.
Do they have no objection?
that,
No, if-
that,
if-
I
If-
don't. I'm 2 away.
Two
I'm not
away,
right
yeah.
here, but I have no objection. I wanted to see plans, that's all.
Renee,
That's in a few months.
So do I.
I realized that this morning when I read it.
so
But
the,
actually, I was thinking with the road work on the back street, the sooner the better, because it's just gonna add more construction. If they can't use the back street because it's under construction.
Yeah.
A1A is gonna be a disaster. That's just my personal opinion. The sooner the better.
so the way staff typically grants these in-season construction work. Well, first off, I'll say that Greg never allows a demo in season, because after you demo, then you have other stuff to do that's also prohibited: driving piles, pouring concrete, pumping concrete, things like that. So typically that's just a non-starter for him. What he will do when we're in season, if it is something that is going to really hold up the project, but we want to obviously keep it going, is he will reach out to the neighbors and just say, hey, listen, are you going to be out of town a certain time? We do have a project next to you and they're going to be pumping concrete for 2 days. Is there, a time that works for you? So the question about the neighbors, that's something that he can certainly look into and see if there's a period of time during April that they, will be out of town, or, that would be, acceptable to them. But that's typically how we staff processes those special requests.
And that's what I feel. As long as you can get all of the circular neighbors, across Gulfstream Road on the west side of Gulfstream Road to say, no, it's fine with us. I think that that's permissible, but if you are inconveniencing people, I think,
No, and not to disturb you, we don't intend to create a disturbance.
you don't.
And,
I know you, and
and just
I know that the,
a technical thing, this will not be on piles. It's going to be stem wall, conventional
Okay.
foundations. It's a 1-story.
Yeah.
It's not a 2-story house. So,
And if you do recommend it, it still has to go before the commission to
Right.
get that approval.
right.
So.
And they
right,
may say yes or no.
Right. But we don't want to, well,
Just as,
So I'm in favor of allowing it to happen.
Yeah, so am I.
okay.
would anybody like to make a motion then?
I have one quick question.
Okay.
Is there any notable vegetation that's going to be taken out during the demolition?
No,
Vegetation wise?
No. In fact, that's another reason really we want to see and get the landscape architects involved, because the house will be in a very similar position to what's there now. We're going to protect that
Big front
lovely,
yard.
because with the grade, the rise, it's really a unique lot.
Yeah,
And-
gorgeous.
So I can't answer the design aspect of it, but it'll be a Bermuda style down
Good,
roof.
good to hear. One story Bermuda. Beautiful. A real
Down-
Gulfstream Bermuda.
I have one
Not a
question
ranch.
for Trey. I probably should have asked before, so I apologize. What is this term landmark status? I didn't think we had any kind of landmark.
that's just within the code. I don't think that we have anything that's really
Okay,
landmark.
right.
Maybe,
Good question.
maybe the club, just don't tell them.
Thank you.
No, all right.
But Mark, once it's demolished, you're not going to be pouring any kind of concrete.
No, till we have permits.
Well, right. I don't think they'll even if they submitted
It won't be.
for
We won't start.
the mar-
to answer
yeah.
This gentleman's question, it may be August before we start any heavy. And I'd say without piling, this is standard stem wall footing. So
I'll make a motion. Is that good?
There's 2 of them, actually.
A motion to recommend approval of a demolition permit to permit the demolition of the existing residence and to allow, subject to subject to what?
Staff confirming an acceptable date of demolition based on residents.
That the applicant be permitted to demolish the structure prior to the end of,
May 1st.
or prior to May 1st.
Second.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Acting Chairman Doherty.
Yes.
There's another motion, right?
Is there a second?
Yeah, there's a
The
second.
demo.
Another one? Oh, thank you. Then turn the page. Motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan based on the finding that the demolition of the existing resident meets the minimum intent of the design manual applicable review standards.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Acting Chairman Doherty.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
I'd like to make some comments off the record there.
Okay. Any items on the staff?
I just want to mention relative to that earlier application with the 5-page submittal, all we did was be extremely professional and cordial and help the Swift Miklos project move forward. I was very shocked because there was no hostility from staff or from the applicant during the months that we were discussing that. So even though the submission was, a little inappropriate and maybe adversarial, the resident did not act like that towards staff and staff did not act like that towards him. So just, to clear that up, again, very frustrating to see, but, all of our conversations with him were cordial and professional.
Any others?
And thank you.
I've got something else I wanted to bring up, especially with regard to people putting in artificial grass or people doing things that are just doing them and then coming back and begging forgiveness. I think there ought to be a change in the fines that we can, that the commission can, put in for people building houses that are constantly breaking starting times. It is getting ridiculous because a $50 fine means nothing to these people. And we've had we even had one situation where a guy came over and said, well, here's a check for $500. Let me know when I've run out, because his people were starting early. And that's just silly. If I mean, they're building multi-million-dollar houses and, 500 bucks here, $1,000 there means nothing. So, and yet I really think that we have to be much more firm in how we are respected as a committee.
So we've seen a lot of progress on the enforceability of active permitted projects. So we have our construction site management handbook that everyone is responsible to abide by, which incorporates a fining schedule, which allows ticketing. So on subsequent offenses, if it becomes a problem, we can ticket them $500 for example, starting early. And we've seen significant fines on projects that did not adhere to that. And we are able to stop any work prior to the 9 o'clock start time, in addition to fining them $500 for that instance. So that gives us more teeth, obviously, than a $50 ticket. That's the largest that we can do per incident, and that gives us a lot of more compliance than if it was just $50 or, hey, can you not do that? And then they just keep doing it. So that's what we're limited to by statute. The issue, I guess, is when we do have work that occurs and then they kind of come in and ask for forgiveness. I spoke to a resident who was caught installing artificial turf just this week, and I mentioned, we had a long talk about that, and he said, I'm sorry that I didn't look into it, but I read an article in the Coastal Star that said that the town now allows artificial turf, so I just figured I could install it. Now, he's been through the board a few times for a home, so I think that he or his architect is aware that, if you're going to do something, we probably have guidelines for it. But he apologized and said that he would come before the board, and we talked a little bit about where it could be installed and all those things. So, it's just trying to stay on top of them. I think with respect to artificial turf, I think the mayor will likely send out an annual letter soon. So we will make sure to include that with, you do need to get approval from the planning board. There are specific guidelines, things like that. So, that educational component with respect to the artificial turf that is being installed without permission.
But it's more than just artificial turf. I know, in another community in which I live, there was a fellow who didn't want to bother to get a permit to re-roof his house. And so he just hired some people to come in, start the re-roofing process. Somebody went by, they saw that it was being done, they checked as to whether or not there was a permit issued, and the town came out and said, you will cease and desist what you're doing, and you'll just leave the house as is through the winter. So he didn't have a roof on his house, on part of his house, and his heating bill went astronomically high, but it was a penalty. It was a severe penalty. And I think I think we really should get a little bit closer to that kind of,
Well, I mean, we will definitely stop work if they don't have a permit. I'm not sure that we've followed that by saying, or giving them a certain time period that they can start again. I'm not sure that.
I don't want to.
until
is
they
allowed to do.
reconcile with the
Right.
committee as to whether or not they can do it.
And I don't want to name
Right.
any names. We did have someone who got zoning approval from staff, and then they went and started their project without a building permit. And we found out, and we did stop them and made them get a permit. And I think that they had demoed a good portion of their house. It was kind of open, so they had to stop work, and we actually had to kind of push on them to get the permit because, the the house was just kind of sitting there, with that front section open. So we have done that when we catch it. It's about being proactive, and that's something that I think we're doing better these days.
So Curtis, there was the house north of me, the prior owner decided to build an accessory building right next to my property line. The town manager, the police check it in the alleys, so it was totally in violation of setback. He had laid a foundation. Part of the building was already constructed. It was torn down and put where it was supposed to be put. There were two royal palms on a property where they tore the house down, tore the royal palms without approval. We made them put it back in. So where we have an opportunity for remedial action, there is action taken, which is good.
Yeah.
And his Mr. Lyons' daughter built a new house over here on County Road. The contractor, I think, by the time that one was done, had been fined about $5,000 in fines that they had to pay, and that they're building another house over on Pelican. So we've paid, we've not had the issue that we did with.
What were most of those fines for?
Starting early.
Well, I mean, I don't want to. Obviously, my daughter and her husband didn't want these people to come early. But I
wasn't
can
criticizing
I
him.
can assure you that when the building next to me was built, they were there early, 10 minutes. Didn't bother me.
Emmons, yeah.
And, but we had a activist neighbor who I won't even get into. And if I get into it, it won't be pleasant. So, no, I'm dead serious.
No.
I think
That didn't like the 10-minute thing. They were all annoyed with that.
I think-
You don't know about this.
It seems like this
No, I don't.
artificial turf thing is getting bigger. And I think if Scott gets that in his letter, then they can't say they didn't know.
Right.
Really, because
Yeah.
I think they
I-
did.
Yeah.
And we are seeing a lot of
See,
that.
Mark,
Oh, see, Mark.
Mark, did you want to?
You're missing the best part.
No, I mean, just off the record,
We're on the record.
We are on the record right now. We're still going, taping.
I can adjourn the meeting real quick if this.
I'm surprised that white tile is not available.
And that's the town's position, is that it is available. We've had,
The problem I have with white tile is we're used to get a 9-inch tile with,
Right.
that was a very
Right.
pleasant, look
Size.
really appropriate. Now they went to a 13-inch and you still can get it as far as I know. That was news to me, so I'm learning, I guess. And it is a slurry that you can't get it through white. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, it's only slurry is
It's
available.
only a slurry, but
And it doesn't the slurry show mold much quicker, I was told, no?
and it's easier to clean actually, because it's striated, the old tile too. It was mimicking a shape. That's what it was designed for. But it's a little cleaner in terms of surface, not as textured. But it lasts just as good. So, but it comes only in 13-inch, which is a very clumsy size. That's my problem with it.
Okay.
But maybe this gentleman is right. I'm learning. So I know there's. If your town's bad, think what Naples is going to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's a white.
That's
tile.
all they have over there.
Right. So it just doesn't make sense to me anyway. I'll investigate, but I'm learning it. That's it.
Well, we'll see what you present to us in 3 months.
Yeah.
You said. So,
Yeah, it would. The most likely to be slate.
okay, even nicer. Great.
Yeah. So. All right. Nice to see you all.
Okay, good to see you, Mark.
I do have a question regarding the turf, because some of the residents who have been turned down on the turf are sort of ratting out their neighbors who have the turf that didn't ask permission to get the turf, and we didn't even know they had the turf. So do you want us to do code enforcement on that? The people who
Let's
did
say
not
that
ask
for
permission?
that's a town commission question.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We were just on the
Be-
subject, and
between-
it was on my
between-
mind from yesterday, him complaining.
Between
so.
you and code enforcement and Greg with Mr. Lyons' daughter, my goodness, can we get out of this meeting faster?
not criticizing. It was the contractor that just would not listen. Yeah.
Better close this out.
Okay.
All right,
No
I
public.
guess there's
Do you have
nothing else.
You're public. Do you want to comment?
Okay,
All right.
the meeting's adjourned.